Well, that got a little more heavier than I thought it would end up turning. I just got done watching the Quintessential Quintuplets Season 2, or Faitobon no Hanayome double integral, I guess. Because math, I guess. Yeah, weird symbols in Japanese anime titles, or technically in this case, manga titles. But yeah, just got done with it. It is a 12 episode series that ran in the winter 2021 season. I believe that they have announced a third season already, so that's a good thing because, yeah, things are technically heating up, but let's get into it. So for those that are unaware, the Quintessential Quintuplets basically follows a guy named Fotaro who is not very well off. He's struggling for money, and at some point he is approached by a gentleman to hire as a tutor to basically help his 5 children, or quintuplets, get better in school because they're all failing and flunking. And so, being that he is actually pretty well off in his knowledge and he studies really hard, this is something that he ends up taking upon himself in order to make money for his family and at the same time teach these girls how to do all sorts of studies. And this is something in the first season that kind of gave off the impression of just a typical harem comedy kind of thing. Really kind of pushing this idea of this guy literally having no clue about girls, being totally into his studies, not really being very good at socializing, doesn't really know boundaries very well. All kind of teaching these girls that really don't want him to be there. They're essentially 5 girls that are all quintuplets, so they have all their different personalities. They kind of look similar to each other, but they, at some point in their life, decided to all kind of start dressing differently, cutting their hair differently, and kind of getting their own personalities, where you'll kind of find out in the, previous time, they were pretty much inseparable girls that really did everything together and looked the same. And even though he does have this kind of conflict with a lot of these girls not wanting to learn, you have like Yatsuba, who is always kind of helping other people out. She rarely ever takes time for herself. She's technically, supposedly, the dumbest of the girls, not very knowledgeable. Miku is just really deep into historical figures, and that's her thing, and everything else she just doesn't really apply much to. Nino is good at cooking, but she's just doesn't want to. She really hates Futaro at the beginning. Itsuki is just kind of the middle ground girl. She doesn't really have a heavy personality in something. She's just kind of, she's trying to be big sister, but she's not really a big sister. And then finally we have Ichika, who is kind of she seems like the eldest. She is an actor. She does that all the time. She sleeps a lot. She has a habit of taking her clothes off when she sleeps. So each of these girls have a different personality, and there's different reasons why he can't get them to just sit down and study. Either they don't want to, they hate him, or they're just too busy. And this is kind of becomes a struggle for Futaro, who is hired to tutor them to take on this task and figure it out, while at the same time kind of building relationship with each one of these girls, or not building relationship with the girls. And that was a lot of focus in the first season. It really, like I said, felt like a straight up comedy harem. There was this kind of backstory to Futaro where you find out that he had known some girl when he was like 5 years prior. He ran into some girl on a trip in Kyoto. And yeah, as you'd believe, it ends up turning into one of those things where he ends up discovering a picture in one of their rooms indicating that one of these 5 girls is this girl that he met a long time ago. Is that Nisekoi Hook? Which one is the girl from the past? But what's funny is, and it's something I noticed in the first season, is it's like Futaro doesn't really care. Like he's so focused on his study, making money for his family. He doesn't really care. He keeps the picture with him of this girl, but he doesn't really this isn't his livelihood. Whereas most shows, it becomes like such a huge focus of this childhood person that they found is this big romantic thing. Futaro is not really. I mean, like I said, he keeps it, he acknowledges it, but it's not his life. It's not his livelihood. Like, he needs to solve this puzzle, and I kind of appreciated that. I didn't really want another Nisekoi. I didn't want another childhood friend that we have to find kind of thing that anime is known for, very much so. Yeah, the second season takes a bit of a more shift. Whereas I think in the first season, a lot of its focus is on kind of, introducing these girls, There was a lot of kind of struggle happening with him trying to gain the approval of these girls. Whereas the second season, he's got the approval, so to speak, not really entirely. And now we're seeing a lot of the girls start kind of grow affection for Futuro, and this turns into drama. This turns into who's gonna win. And it was funny because in the first season, it seemed like Miku and Ichika got like a huge head start. I know there was a lot of Team Miku. I was one of them. I love Miku. I think she's the best. Even though I have my love for Yatsuba, there was a lot of focus on those two characters. It was, like I said, it was almost as if they had a head start in this whole thing. And going into the second season, it seemed like free for all, and all these girls are now just trying to grab his attention, and that was nice. Granted, a good half of the season itself was really more focused on them not failing their next test and the possibility of Futuro being fired or quitting. Majority of it was on the free for all, like who is going to win at this point. And I have to say, I was very much so surprised. I really didn't think it was going to get as, I guess, cutthroat as it ended up being. I will just say that one particular character did something that I was surprised that they did, and I was very much so. They became very irredeemable in my eyes. They tried to redeem the character later on, but it's like, and it was a moment where it was like trying to grab tears from me. I'm like, no, you're not gonna redeem yourself. I might let you be forgiven, but I'm not gonna. Yeah, you're. Yeah. Anyways, I'm avoiding spoilers. I'm sorry. I was thinking of saying something, but it would totally, basically point it off. But I was also surprised that they, again, even though they technically have this kind of carrot on a stick of who's this girl from the past, I was actually surprised of how much they revealed of that. And I'll just leave it at that. I honestly thought that was something that's going to take longer to get into. And I'm curious if that means that the next season is going to be the final, and if they're planning on possibly adapting the whole thing. That does get me excited. A lot of these kind of comedy romance shows, harem-esque shows, don't really ever get conclusions, and I'm wondering if this one will possibly be one that will get it. And I kind of want to get a spoiler discussion in at the end of this video so that I can go into my thoughts. I did like a lot of the backstory that the girls were given. Technically, these girls were kind of presented as kind of rich snobby girls. And I think at some point having this kind of backstory to learn about the mother, learn about their living conditions in the past, it really did it made them more down to earth. And I really did like that. Granted, I don't have a problem with these girls being rich and being silver spoon, being fed pretty much everything they needed. But to kind of give them more of a sense of down-to-earthness was really appreciated. I really did like getting an idea of them as their younger self, what they went through with their grandfather. The grandfather's fantastic, by the way. Touch my daughter again, and I'll kill you. The grandfather was fantastic. And he kind of led into a lot of discussion about identifying the girls for their individuality. And I think that's something that's always been kind of technically in the show itself. They often play with this idea of changing their appearance and him not knowing who they really are, which did technically lead into one character doing something I wasn't too happy with. But forcing Futuro to really kind of acknowledge their individuality was really cool. I think that's something that's been, at this point, played a little bit too much. I hope they don't do it anymore, because it's been kind of done to death at this point. But I do understand the idea of these girls wanting to be acknowledged for their own personal self and not be seen as just, I'm just my sisters, we're, all the same, there's no individuality to myself. Even though technically we get a lot of that grab of their voicing, Futuro is obviously struggling to figure this out. It was kind of fun trying to hear the voices and catch the different quirks that they have in order to figure it out along with Futuro. But like I said, I hope this is kind of the point in which they kind of move on from that stuff. But yeah, my thoughts overall, I love the second season. I think I love the second season more than the first season. Even though the first season did give me a lot of great Miku moments. And again, I'm Team Miku at this point. I did really like it, and it gave it a lot more drama and personality. It gave a lot more to the characters than just being rich harem characters. It gave them personality, it gave them emotion, it gave them struggle, and I am really curious as to where the show takes it on from here. I granted Futuro is starting to get a sense of, oh, love is a possibility here, whereas before he was kind of completely dense to a lot of that stuff. He's very typical ditherer main character who doesn't understand what love is and doesn't see the hints. He is getting more of hints, and I do like that. And it does have me curious as to how this is end up going to be concluded. So, really excited for season 3. Solid season 2. Like I said, much better than the first season. Even though the first season was more goofy harem goofiness. Second season, a lot more drama, which is, again, very surprising. But that's my review of the Quintessential Quintuplets Season 2. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, after the thanks at the end of here for our Patreon supporters, I'm going to get into a little bit of spoiler discussions and my thoughts on what's going to happen next. So if you are interested in that and don't mind spoilers, definitely check that out. But I thank you all for watching. If you did enjoy this video, please leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what you thought of the season, or if you're going to check it out, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I thank you all for watching, and y'all take care. So getting into my spoiler thoughts on Quintessential Quintuplets, so big gigantic warning label here if I do this in post-production. But no, I do want to get out of the way so people are curious that don't know. Yeah, Ichika lost me. I mean, Ichika wasn't my favorite to begin with. She's just kind of the superstar girl. I really don't care much for her. I don't like her character design in general, but I had some moments with her in the first season. I thought that was a couple of cute scenes with her, but yeah, it's funny because there was a lot of cutthroat happening. Granted, Nino was being very blunt, like, no, screw it. I want to be with Futuro. I don't care about y'all. She was determined and she was going for it. She just went after their throats. But she was very open about it. She was in front of them. She laid her cards out and said, I am being honest here. This is what I'm doing. So I don't have any beef with Nino, even though I think she's been an absolute snotty girl for pretty much most of the first and first half of the second season. I just love her Seiyu, honestly. But Nino, I don't think did anything wrong. Like I said, she was honest. She told people what she's doing. There was no backstabbing happening. Miku, I don't think ever did anything wrong. She's being, again, also very forward, very honest with what she's doing. She's not honest with Futuro, but she's honest with the rest of the girls. And I don't really think any of the others really did anything wrong. But Ichika, specifically, it was the fact that she used the identity of one of the other girls to push the cards in her favor. And that was, I think, irredeemable. And it sucks that it never came to light to Futuro. I hate the fact that they just basically covered up. But at the moment that it became to light to the rest of the girls, I was like, yes, thank you. Bury this girl. Like, that was wrong. That was literally wrong. She used the identity of somebody that loved him to say, hey, go after her instead. And that was just, it was so nasty. And when she was almost going to cheat and give herself the placement and the cards, the E route, I was like, yeah, you're slimy. And then when it switched on it and said, oh no, never mind, she actually put Miku on there, or she gave Miku the card, I'm like, you're still slimy. I don't like you. But yeah, it was almost as if they were making Ichika into like a yandere character. I'm like, whoa, wow, what are they doing with this character? This is getting a lot more heavier than I thought it was going to be, but it turned into something cute in the end, though. It really did kind of push this idea of their familiar bonds being stronger than anything else, and that was technically the good side to everything in the end. So my thoughts on where this will go in the future. Granted, like we know now, Yotsuba was the one from the past. I kind of had a thought that would be the case, just because of her personality. I just backseated it or I put it in the back of my pocket because technically, you know, they should have all been pretty ganky and goofy when they were younger. It's just Yotsuba still has that nature to herself. Which I'm perfectly fine with. If it turns into one of those things of, oh, the one from the past has to be the one, I'm perfectly fine, because I think Yotsuba is just so is so pure. Like she's so adorable. She of all of them, and especially shine in this season because everybody was at each other's throats. Especially showed in this season how much she cares for others more than herself. Granted, that is technically her story. Is the idea that she cares for others so much she forgets herself. She doesn't know what she wants. But that's exactly what makes her so special. Is somebody that just thinks of others more than themselves. Can be to a detriment, but I don't necessarily think that's always the case. I don't think that that's is something that often in storytelling is seen as a negative thing, but I think that's just it's a falsity. There's nothing wrong with seeing others more than yourself. There's nothing wrong with putting others before yourself. It is wrong when it gets to the point where you're killing yourself, obviously, because then if you're not there because you're harming yourself to the point where you're gone, they no longer have you. But anyways, that's a heavy subject for some other time. But yeah, obviously in the ending point, they did show the person that tackled Futuro hit the bell, which is I don't know if they actually mentioned in this particular show, but that's typically one of those spots where somebody goes, they ring a bell, and it means that they're going to get married eventually. So it was basically saying that this is the person that marries him. And obviously it's not saying that it's Itsuka or Itsuki, because they all at that location at Grandpa's spa were dressing up like Itsuki. So it could have been any one of them. It is definitely trying to make you believe it's Itsuki. But as you know, based on where they're at that time, they were all dressed up as Itsuki. So it doesn't mean that's who it is. So what is the theory of who it would end up being? I do really like the idea of it being Miku in the end, just because Miku has been seemingly the most focus of the entire series as a possibility. Granted, Nino took a lot of front stage this last season. Yatsuba, unfortunately, I would like Yatsuba to be the one because she's the underdog. She's the only one that is never there, is never in that romantic relationship. So it'd be the most surprise of anything. But I think it being the one that it is from the past is a little bit too easy. But it would be interesting. It would be a surprise in the end. Unfortunately, I don't know why it's that way. I'm trying to figure out where exactly it would be. I think it's just really the demeanor. Itsuki technically is the most basic character. She's not an extreme of anything. And so she does technically get the sense of being the poster child for the series. And I think that's too easy. I think thankfully, due to this misdirection of this ending, it makes it more possible that Itsuki will not be the one, just to surprise the viewer and the reader. I'm guessing in the manga probably did the same thing. But yeah, my cards are on Miku just because of how they've been playing out the story so far and how much romantic focus has been on Miku. I would be perfectly fine with it being Yatsuba. I don't want it to be Itsuki because Itsuki's too boring. I don't know. It's surprising how little focus has been on Itsuki. I mean, she's always there, yes, but she's never in. I just don't. It's hard to recall any good moments in the series with Itsuki involved. Yes, she always gets involved whenever it's time to talk to Dad, but that's about it. It seems like she is the person that needs to be involved there. And like I said, granted, technically with the first season, a lot of focus was on her trying to be the big sister. But yeah, she always just seems to kind of be there and not really too involved. But yeah, again, like I said, for some reason, she always seems to be seemingly the poster child. And when I don't really quite understand that, I think that's because she technically has that same demeanor you usually get from a poster child, poster character. But that is what it is. So that's my theories. I hope it's Miku because, like I said, she seems to have most of the romance in the show itself. I don't want it to be Ichika because I think I don't like her anymore, honestly. If you're Team Ichika, that's fine. Don't get mad. I perfectly understand. Nino, I don't know. I love Tsundere characters. I love her character. I love her Seiyu, but I don't know. I think she's just too. I would. Let me be perfectly honest. I want all of them to win at the end. So here's my big, crazy, big brain theory before I close things out. I think it'll be all of them. I think the person that will win in the end, the person that he is marrying in that scene, is, I forget what her name was. What whoever was it? Ren. I think Yotsuba was her name was Ren when she was younger and she met Futaro. He's gonna marry that person from his past. This basically unspecified named self that is all the girls. Because what's their big thing they always kind of have happen when they went to grandfather's, they were all dressed up the same. They were dressed up similar to each Itsuki. They were all the same. And so what I think was gonna actually happen, and I don't really, this is not too crazy of a thought because it seems like their father has a lot of money and a lot of power, but this idea of having this different person that is all of them combined, that he will marry that one, he will marry Ren, if it was Ren, I'm sorry if the name's wrong. He will marry this girl from his past, and that person will be all of them. So he'll essentially marry all of them, and they will, yeah, dress up as that one person or whatever. That's my crazy theory, and if they go that direction, I'd be totally blown away. I'd be like, holy crap, they actually did that. To give it the absolute harem ending. Why not? I don't know. It's crazy, but that's my crazy theory. Let me know if that's something you think is going to work good. We'll have to wait and see. I'm not sure when a third season will be, but yeah. Those are my spoiler thoughts, but yeah, let me know in the comments. Put it under like some space so that you can put a spoiler, read all, or read more kind of thing if you're going to talk spoilers. I don't want others to see spoilers, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this discussion. As always, thank you all for watching, and y'all take care.